Hello, Hades here. In this video, we are going to we'll look at the anatomy of the arm. I won't go into too much detail because the arm is the muscles there are they can get pretty confusing. So what I want to do in this video is just give you the things that I find the most useful to know when thinking about the anatomy of the arm. Or it's also range of motion. How can you find the muscles, right? In the same way, in my leg video, where I was talking about that triangle, and that's how that helps you, find muscles. I'm gonna show you stuff like that. So here, what you're seeing right now is a arm study I did, last year, and so now I've brought it back so I can use it as reference in this video. So yeah, there's a lot going on in the arm. But really, if you're just drawing these and not creating medical diagrams, this is plenty. Right, I've gotten away with just knowing this stuff. So I've been drawing arms the last couple of days or so, and here I picked out some of them to show. So I really do simplify. Right, if anything, I'm just having fun with the shape design of it. Right, I don't think too much about the actual anatomy. I'm just thinking, how can I design this to look good? All the muscles you see here, right? That's pretty much it. On the back of the arm, the top of the arm, you've got the tricep. Everyone knows the deltoid. You've got the biceps. And then the forearm, that's where things get really complicated. So you have a flexor group, an extensor group, and you have the Brachioradialis. And that's how I break down the muscles in the forearm. Just talk about this for a second. So here's a diagram I have, right? So the way the arm, it's range of motion, right? So you got the upper arm, right? All of this. And then you have the condyles, right? So that's like the bony parts on either side of your elbow. Right, so you can kind of think of that as like a cylinder, and it stays in place. And then, you have your elbow, which is in between those two. Okay, and from here, from your elbow, all the way to here, that bone is called the ulnar, right? So you got two bones in your forearm. The reason that this is important is because if you do want to find the separation between the flexor group and the extensor group, you just need to find the ulnar, right? And it's not too hard to find, because if you just start from your elbow and then just go directly to your wrist on the pinky side, that's where the ulnar starts and ends. All right, so from elbow, like I've shown here, from elbow all the way to the pinky side of your wrist, right? You can feel that bony part on the pinky side of your wrist. That's the connection. That's the bone. That's the ulnar. Okay, so underneath that you have the flexor group, and above you got the extensor group. That's how I pretty much think about it. Okay, and in terms of range of motion, so as I said, the upper arm doesn't move much, right? Its only movement is from the ball joint of the shoulder, right? Like, so you can move your upper arm around, right, using the ball joint, around the ball joint of your shoulder. Whereas your forearm, right, so that just depends on the movement is just based on those two bones. I think the other bone is called the something beginning with an R, but those bones fold over each other. Okay, so your upper arm just stays in place as you do that, right? I mean, you can try it right now. Like, if you just bring your palm in front of you and just have your upper arm stay in the same place, or you can have your palm face up and your palm face down, right? And then your upper arm will just stay in place. Okay, so just think of it as, these are the condyles, and then the ulnar just kind of it's like a hinge joint, meaning you can lift it up, I guess all the way to go up to here, and then you have a full range of motion down to there until you straighten your arm. I hope that makes sense. Okay, yeah, so you can see I've drawn the ulnar here. It's very loose, I'm not being super accurate with it, right? So from elbow to pinky side of wrist. Okay, and then the muscle group below it, and then you got the muscle group above it, right? So that's how you can distinguish the muscle groups using the ulnar. Okay, but even then, I don't draw the ulnar, as you can see, right? So what I will get into is this sort of shape, and thinking about cylinders mostly. Well, in fact, let me show you some stuff by All Western, which I pretty much got these ideas from. Yeah, so you can see here, we can see the ulnar bone, right? You can see my mouse, the cursor tracing it, and below that you've got the flexor group, and above it you got the extensor group, which All Western has also merged with the Brachioradialis. Some tips by Taco as well, who shows this. I don't know if he shows it for the same reason, but it's somewhere here. You got from elbow all the way to pinky side of wrist, right? This is very useful to know if you want to separate those two groups of muscles. Okay, and you can see down here how rotating your wrist, that part, moves. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, so upper arm, you can move your shoulder around this ball joint, but then once you come down to the forearm, it's just palm face up, palm face down, really, right? While your upper arm just stays in place. And it's actually that for that reason, people will usually find the forearm a bit difficult to draw because it's kind of hard to get your head around this range of motion. So let's talk about a few of these muscles for a second. So the triceps just take up pretty much the whole back of the upper arm, right? And they actually do stick out when you look at the arm from the front as well. And on the other side we have the bicep, and there are muscles in between the tricep and bicep, but I don't draw them. They don't help me when I'm drawing. So we have the flexor group and the extensor group, right? It's just the main groups of your forearm muscles on the top and at the bottom. And the reason I like to separate out the brachioradialis is that's the muscle that's like kind of right, so that will contribute to the shape of the arm, so it's good to know what it is, right? Whereas these other muscles, the shape that they form is, pretty much all of them as a group. At least that's the way I think about it. And also, what you want to know is that this muscle right here, right? It starts, around here, and goes all the way to the thumb side of the wrist. Yeah, I was talking about how you can find the muscles. This is what this diagram is for. So when I was learning, this really helped me, right? When I was trying to find the muscles, although I didn't use pose maniacs, so you could use pose maniacs and that will make it easier. You've got the deltoid, which, the tip of it, you could say, is here. And then that is where you'll find the brachialis. Sorry, I don't draw that, but that's the muscle between your bicep and your tricep. And then that leads to the brachioradialis, right? This yellow muscle that I've drawn. Okay, so if you can just figure out where those things are, like if you find this, right? Imagine a line that goes straight down almost, or just across the contour of the arm, and that connects you to the brachioradialis, and that will take you down to the thumb side of the wrist. Okay, so if you can just find these muscles, you know what goes behind, you know what goes in front, and then okay, so the brachialis is here, so that means you've got that there, and then the ulnar is here, and the ulnar separates the extensor and flexor group, and you know, just like that, you've got all the muscles. Yeah, so I hope that makes sense. I was kind of worried about making this video because the arms they are quite difficult to think about, but I think once you get these certain ideas down, it's not too bad. Okay, so you got the muscles there. You got these side muscles that can help you find where things are. Right, if you want to draw more muscles for, you know, whatever style you're going for, or whatever it is that you're drawing. But you know, as far as I go, this is really it. Okay, so I'm just thinking about design. Muscles, not so much. We got the muscles. All right, this is on my Instagram, so you can go look it up if you like. Okay, so yeah, then we have the side muscles. So remember the condyles. I mean, you can feel them right now. Like feel the bony parts on either side of your elbow, and then you got the elbow in the middle, right? So if you lift your forearm up and down, I mean, you can feel your elbow like moving, right? That's, you know, that's what this is. That's what this motion is. Okay, so upper arm just stays in place, but the forearm, you know, that will move on its well, the forearm can move on its own basically. Okay, and the last thing I want to go over is just the range of motion, or what happens to the muscles at the forearm, because that's another thing that makes it really complicated, right? Because you kind of get lost on what's happening once the forearm starts rotating. Again, another thing I pretty much just got from Will Wesson. If you have your arm in this position with a palm facing out, you can pretty much just say we have the flexor group and the extensor group. But what happens when you rotate your wrists? Thumb's on this side, but if you rotate your palm, so now the wrist is on the other side, well, remember what I said earlier, the Brachioradialis, right? It starts here, right? Remember that side of the arm, and it makes its way down to the thumb. So that's what this demonstrates here. So you can see this area now shows up in front, right? Whereas before it was just this. I mean, it's not exactly half like this, but you know, for the sake of making it simple for ourselves, we'll just think of it as divided in half. Okay, so that's one thing to try and keep track of as you do this, as you're trying to just learn these basic muscle groups. Okay, so you know, I've said it before, if you can learn the you know, the muscle attachment points, that's just going to help you so much, right? Because if you're drawing from without reference, you know, you know where things should go, right, and where they attach. So yeah, we've got that. Yeah, I mean, as you're studying forearms, I wouldn't get too try not to get too frustrated, because it is difficult to, you know, deal with this rotation of the forearm. It does get quite confusing, but yeah, but for me personally, the things that matter are, you know, the side muscles of the arm, so I can find you know, bicep, tricep, flexor, extensor groups, and so on. And also what's happening at the elbow and the condyles, and how the elbow goes straight to the ulnar goes straight to the ulnar goes from the elbow to the pinky side of the wrist, right? Always. And then, you know, you got the rotation of the forearm. Okay, so that's just the basics of the arm. I mean, definitely use an anatomy book if like what I'm saying isn't making sense, or find another resource and just mix and match so things make more sense to you. So things I want to mention. Yes, so the forearm, you can kind of think of it as like a plank of wood that has masses on it. Actually, Will Wesson has a good diagram of this. Yeah, so right here at the very bottom, see how like the forearm, there's like a, you know, there's like a box there like a long box, and then you got this organic form on top of it and below it, right? Thinking of it that way is actually quite useful. I mean, obviously I don't necessarily draw the plank, but I keep it in mind, right? So, I mean, a lot of you have been probably drawing cylinders and boxes for a while now. If you're doing anatomy, this shouldn't cause you too much trouble, right? You're just drawing a box in perspective, okay? And you'll see, well, actually right here. See at the very at the wrist, right? He also turns it into a box. So I guess that helps you connect it to the hand. I'll show you how I deal with that once I start drawing. And I think Taco has one as well. Let me see if I can find that. Oh yeah, right here. So doesn't make it as obvious as Will Weston does, but you can see how like the cross section at the upper arm. Oh sorry. If we break the forearm into like a half, the upper part of the forearm has a larger cross section, as opposed to close to the wrist where it's more flat. Right, so that's how I can think of it. It's like a plank of wood, and then you've got masses that you attach on top of it. Okay, very clear diagram here with a nice cross section of what's going on. So when it comes to drawing the forearm, right, the way you draw the extensor group and the flexor group, I can never remember which one's which, but I mean, as long as I got my diagram, well, I don't really have to remember which one's which. I just need to remember this one thing that I'll show you right now. I remember how I was saying how the brachioradialis, the muscle in yellow, goes to the thumb, right? Taco's shown that perfectly, clearly here. Right, and it's showing you what happens with the rotation, right? So it follows the thumb. Well, it attaches to the thumb, so wherever the thumb goes, it will follow. As always, I really recommend using Taco's notes. Super helpful. Okay, so let's take a look at this, right? There's a clear asymmetry between the extensor group and the flexor group. Okay, so you can see here, it doesn't really matter which angle you draw the arms from, you're always going to find some asymmetry between those muscles. So, and I can't draw on these, but if you see down here, see how this peak and this peak, they're not at the same level, right? And you'll see that for all of them, right? Very clear here. This peak and this peak, not symmetrical. And from a perfect side view, you can see the asymmetry. It's alright, so you want to try and maintain that asymmetry. So let me show you on ones that I've done. I mean, you don't have to maintain it, but it just looks better if you do. So where have I done this? Oh, a nice clear diagram. Okay, let's take this diagram I have up here, right? So this peaks up here, right? Whereas this one, I have peak somewhere else, right? You can exaggerate as much as you want, right? So the peak could be there. So there's an asymmetry between these peaks, right? I don't want them to be. I don't want them to peak at the same place. I mean, this is how I like to draw arms normally, right? So I just really exaggerate that, right? Here, not so much, but I'll talk about this in a moment. Here we've got a peak, and I guess the peak will be here. So you could have that. Here I've got a peak, no peak here, asymmetry, asymmetry. Okay, and sometimes the peak is very subtle. Yeah, something like that. Again here, not a clear peak, but if we have that against this, asymmetry. I think also Will Wesson has one as well. Okay, so here you can see the asymmetry as well. You can see the Brachioradialis, right? That's pretty much where the peak is on top, and then below the peak is down here, right? Nice asymmetry, and you know that's just good shape design. So yeah, just exaggerate. See how what I did here. It's really fun to draw. You know, just have fun with shapes, like even with a hand. See this clear triangle. That's how I'm trying to get myself to think, right? Primitive shapes, and then build off that. That's the secret to you know, making your drawing appealing. I mean, don't have to, but it's just what a lot of artists do. But you know, some of you might not realize. So lastly, let's come to these this cylinder idea that I'm gonna use as a teaching point. Okay, so I have done that. Pretty much all of these ones that I have. But here I've really exaggerated it. Right, so I guess the reason I like it is because, you know, you exaggerate those peaks that I was talking about and the asymmetry. Yeah, so actually Taco has a nice, well, just like I have here, a nice exaggerated diagram. Because I think if you use this, it will lead you, well, let me show you. Here we are. Okay, so look at this. Look at this over here where my mouse is. Right, look how exaggerated the bulges at the upper forearm. Right, that's what I'm trying to do over here. I want to really exaggerate it, and then you know, as you get more comfortable drawing these, you know, you can, you know, design it in ways that you like. The way I draw these, I just think about shape. Okay, so I mean, I won't draw them like this today, at least. I'm going to focus a lot on thinking about the forearm as a cylinder that tapers towards the wrist, and also that plank idea once we get to the wrist. And as far as hands go, I don't think I'll be talking about that too much today. I mean, I'll talk about what I think about, but I mean, I'm not too good with hands, so we'll just focus mainly on the arm itself. So yeah, let's just start drawing. So I think I'm just talking too much. So as always, I'm just going to use well, not always, but I'm going to use Pose Maniacs today. And again, you know, if you're using Pose Maniacs on your own, and you're studying the arm, make sure you can see the whole arm properly. Like if the pose has it's in a position where the arm's hidden, maybe don't do that if you're starting out with this stuff, right? Allow yourself to see everything, and then eventually you can, you know, you'd be in a better position to start guessing what the hand is doing if part of it is hidden or part of the arm is hidden. Okay, so I'm gonna be heavily relying on this idea. Right, so it's like tapering, right, as in it's going inwards. And then once I get to the forearm, I'm just gonna really imagine a cylinder that bulges at the top and then gets narrower towards the wrist. I will also try to include the asymmetry as I do these, and I'll show you where the you know, the ulnar will be. Okay, I mean, but once you find the elbow, all you gotta do is just draw a shape that connects to the pinky side of the wrist, and you got the ulnar. All right, so let's start. Okay, so I usually like to just start off by drawing the deltoid. And then, you know, I try to get that. Just put this in. I mean, no, I will design it. So, I mean, if you see here, I kind of just have a straight and a curve. So I might do that, right? I don't have to copy exactly what I see in the reference, but I mean, you can see that here, right? The deltoid, right? It really does stick out. So I will just have bumps on either side. Oh, and as far as the rhythms go, not fourth rhythms, but the rhythm of the arm, in terms of where the muscles are. The peak of the deltoid is higher up compared to the bicep. So actually, done it here. So you see the peak of the tricep and the peak of the bicep, right? You have this angle going on. Okay, so I mean that's just what it naturally does. But of course, feel free to break some rules. Okay. So the bicep peaks lower down, and then the tricep peaks higher up. So yeah, it's gonna have some fun here. Alright, so you can see the elbow right there, right? So if I want to draw the ulnar, I would just start the elbow and just connect it down to the pinky side of the wrist. But for this, I am going to just draw a cylinder for the forearm. First, hopefully this won't be too troubling, because I know a lot of you, well, who've watched my videos in the past, will have done this already, as in use cylinders for the arms. Okay, so another thing as well is once I get to the pinky side of, well, that ulnar, or the pinky side of the wrist, I will draw this, right, this here, just to exaggerate. I mean, it is naturally there, but I like to just really exaggerate that. So see, you know, done it here. Here. Here, subtly. Well, there as well. So, yeah. If you want to draw that, please do. Okay. Okay, so now that I'm at the wrist, I'm gonna try to think of, you know, having it beatbox stuff, because I'm thinking of like a plank of wood in the forearm. But I mean, you don't have to think of it for the whole forearm as you're drawing it. Just mainly have it in your mind as you're drawing the connection to the hand, right at the wrist. Okay, so I mean, I'll do my best to capture the perspective here. Okay, and if you want to indicate the elbow, then we just have that. It's not much, but in fact, if it doesn't break the silhouette, I might not draw it. Yeah, let's not draw it. Okay, so from elbow, well, I'll draw it for the sake of this. If the elbow is there, as you see, again, if you're confused about where things are, just have an anatomy book or diagram next to you that you can refer to. I mean, this should help you. So you got the elbow, and then remember, pinky side of the wrist is here, so I can just do that. Okay, and then if you need to know where muscles go, fill them in where they need to go. Okay, so and if you will notice, the asymmetry is there, so I've tried to capture that. I mean, it's not clearly obvious, as in like the way I did this, but you know, there is an asymmetry there. Okay, so now I've got that, and it's pretty much done. So pretty easy to draw the arms. Well, draw lots of them. They're not particularly easy to draw. Yeah, so the condyles, you'll see some artists exaggerate it. I do that sometimes because if you feel it, it does stick out. Right, the two bony parts on either side of the elbow, the condyles. But you know, it's up to you how you draw them. Okay, so we have this here. So yeah, notice the design choices I'm making. So you know, you've got a peak here, and I can see the bicep peaking like that as well. So you could do that if you wanted to. I've chosen to just kind of make it straight. Yes, so I will quickly attempt to draw a hand. But as far as the arm goes, it's pretty much done. Right, and that's the great thing about using cylinders, but then just modifying them. Normally I don't use primitive forms, but I think that it works quite well for the arm. Normally I'll just go straight to shape. I mean, I am still going straight to shape, but as a learning tool for drawing the arms, I think the cylinders work quite well, even when you're doing anatomy. So I've actually been looking at a lot of, you know, TB Choi, well, prints mostly, for hands. So I really like the way he draws hands. Yeah, I love stylized hands. It's just so much more fun to look at. But yeah, there's opportunity for design everywhere. This is quite hard. I'll leave it there. Yeah, there's opportunity for design everywhere. So once you learn the basics of design, just use it as much as you can until it's just ingrained in you. You just can't help but design things without even thinking about it. Okay, so and then honestly, that is a big reason. That'd be a big difference between having your drawings look good and not so good. Alright, so I'm using simple versus complex. I made a video about it in the past, but you know, we've got, or you know, so it's just something versus something. So typically, I just simple versus complex kind of has all of that in one, I suppose. So a complex on this side could be this curve against the simplicity of this straight. You know, we could say this side is simple, and then this side could be complex. You got this curve here, and then this straight here. It is really valuable to think about, even if you're a beginner. I mean, the sooner you learn it, hopefully the quicker it will be ingrained in you. Okay, so as far as the plank thing goes, sometimes, not always, I like to kind of separate that out. So, I mean, if I follow this, if this was a plank of wood, I kind of like to show that a bit, as in, well, I'll show you what I mean. So as if I like draw a contour line like this. So it's not just perfectly circular. I mean, imagine I'm going over a plank of wood, right? As in, like that. And that's just a stylistic choice, so, you know, don't have to do it. In fact, I might not do this. Let's see. Okay, I'll leave it. Alright, so let's draw the next arm. I hope I'm not forgetting anything. Yeah, so as far as the tricep goes, I'm not drawing it here, but see this shape that I stole from Will Weston? That's a good shape for the tricep, and it's got nice shape design in there, right? You've got this complexity versus this simplicity. Right? Don't underestimate the power of contrast. Okay, let me try to draw this other arm as well. Once I don't have much else to say about arms, we just draw them without talking too much. The video is really getting long. The longer videos are more popular anyway. Okay, so as far as triceps go, let's talk about what I do. Okay, so you can obviously see I'm not I don't necessarily stick to the shape that I see in this reference. Oh, I've said in the past, pose maniacs is great, but you know, there's just something about it. You know, the muscles don't feel like they're working, if that makes sense. Like they don't change shape. In fact, let me show you something. You know, all this really good tips, all free. So you know, okay, so you got your arm, extend your arm out. The bicep is you know, the shape is pretty flat, as you can see at the top. Then as you bend the arm, you bring your fist towards you, you know, the shape of the bicep changes, right? As far as pose maniac goes, that doesn't really happen. So that's something I noticed about the the deltoid, right? If you raise your arm up, right, your deltoid basically does the same thing. Okay, but for pose maniacs, that you don't see that happen. So just be wary of that if you're trying to study anatomy from pose maniacs, right? You won't really see these shape changes in the muscle, all right? And you know, as an artist who you'll want to design shape, the muscle shape changes can inspire you to make you know, whatever design choices. So just keep that in mind. Okay, what I was going to say about the deltoid. So with the deltoid, when I draw them, I'm thinking primitive shape. I'm thinking triangle. Okay, so you can see all the deltoids there. You can break them down into triangles. I think maybe the only one that might be hard to break into a triangle is the one up here. I mean, if you want to do that. But these are all based on triangles, and then I can like carve it a little bit afterwards. Yeah, triangle. Triangle. Even though it's 3-dimensional, I break them into triangles. Triangle. Haven't completed that one. Right, so really this is a long triangle like that. Triangle. And so on. Right, so just different shapes of triangle that I use. But then, you know, you can carve it out afterwards to whatever shape you like, but I always think of a triangle for deltoid, so I don't know if that's useful, but hopefully it'll help someone. Okay, so yeah, pose maniac's really good. You can see where the muscles go, where they start and end. So like the deltoid actually covers, it goes over the tricep, as you can see here. Okay, so not much involved for the upper arm. I'm just designing. Okay, and I'm just being loose here. Okay, so let's draw, you know, again, you know, I'm thinking cylinders for this upper, the forearm. Right, again, a plank of wood. Remember this, I talked about it over here, where the ulnar is, so you can see where the elbow is. Right, so if you can see the tricep muscles, like that, right? But it's not symmetrical. If you want to be really specific about it, one is higher than the other. But Yes, that's where the are. And then this goes down like that. And at the end, you got your elbow. And so all this area here is like, what's the word? It's all tendon, I think, but I might be wrong. But yeah, all the muscle itself is here, right? And so each head is on either side of the elbow. So yeah, that's just something you can also, well, if you're looking at this and you need to find the elbow and you're not quite sure, so just find these two right in the middle. You could say roughly in the middle. Elbow is right there. Okay, so back to the cylinder. Okay, and if I was to draw the ulnar, elbow is roughly there. Right, if you want to draw good arms, study other artists. Okay, so you got that. I got my flexor group, and then extensor group is on top, and then the Brachioradialis, which we can see here this time. So you might want to add something along those lines, right? Remember, I told you side up muscles on the side of the arm, right? So we've got the tip of the base of the deltoid, and you can think of that as connecting nicely to the Brachioradialis. Okay, but let me get rid of that because I don't want it. And so just roughly do that. And again, not too much work, but we are done. And then again, I'll attempt to draw a hand. We'll leave it there. All right, let's do this one. All right, arms, they don't have to be hard. Just focus on the range of motion. Look at Will Weston's notes. Really good. It saved me a lot of trouble when I was first learning it. Won't draw a hand for this one. Oh, well, maybe I will. I'll leave that. Yeah, it's a perfect example of what I was mentioning earlier about how the muscle is not changing shape. Look at the deltoid on the right. It's just kind of just like a sticker on their arm. Right? There's no shape change. It comes down to you to try and design. Maybe it's a good thing. Well, you know, just draw from reference. Like real life reference. Okay, so I know deltoid should actually peak. And then let's move this down a bit. Alright, and I got that down, so cylinder time. Oh yeah, and for this one, ulnar, look for those the middle of the two tricep heads, right? That'll lead you to the elbow. Okay, so it's about there roughly. And if you want to draw the ulnar to the pinky side of the wrist. So you got this, the flexors, yeah, and then you got the extensors on top. Okay. Also, I don't know. Maybe I should indicate that side of the arm muscle thing. I mean, you can see me do it anyway. Okay, so continue on this. Right, so make use of your knowledge of cylinders and boxes, which I imagine a lot of you have a lot of experience with already. Okay, so we've got that. Or like the pose of the hand here. So with the hands, I'm kind of just cheating. I'm just drawing a shape, which I prefer anyway. Alright, that one is done. Right, and if you really wanted to have some fun, you could, I don't know if you're stylizing, just make the elbow stick out or something. Okay, so again, see the tip, the end of the tricep here. Sorry, the deltoid. Right. So, I mean, you can see in the reference, right? You can see how the brachialis. Just to show that again, this number 2 muscle. Right. You can see it in the reference. You can see in the reference, so that should help guide you a bit, even if what I'm saying doesn't make any sense. At least you can see it. Okay, and see, I'm not getting too fussy about this muscle. If you do want to get really detailed with how things work with anatomy, and not the way I kind of how I'm pretty loose about things, you can look at James Fox's book. It's super detailed. Even his Instagram, I think he posts his stuff on there. You can get a lot more detailed about the way things should be. But you know, I prefer to do this. It's more fun than having to be super accurate. Okay, so that's another one done. So I think I'm forearms so far. No pun intended. Next, I'll try to do as many as I can. Oh, actually, let me go back. It's a bit of a mess here, but elbow here, pinky side of the wrist, Right, done. Yes, I don't really draw the condyles, but I'm just hoping my approach to this is making some sense. So I kind of just think of the upper arm in 2D shapes. So tricep as mainly a triangle, and then the upper arm I kind of just design it based on a straight versus curve normally. I mean, I don't always do that, right? Like here, I am designing it, but you know, you'll experiment and see what you like to do. You know, copy the arms from professional artists, right? Don't just stick with your own drawings that you do from reference. Go out there, find stuff, and see how other artists are designing it and making their arms look good, and then you can bring that into your own work. It'll take a while, but that's the process I've gone through, and I am still going through, because I know it works. I know it makes my drawings better. So there's no reason for me to not do it. And so I want to encourage the rest of you to do the same. Okay, so I can't see the arm on this side, but maybe I shouldn't draw this one because you can't really see it properly. No, it's fine. We'll draw through. So the orientation of the arm is like somewhat like that. And for the inside of the arm, I didn't mention it actually, did I? That confused me for a long time because I had no idea of like what I mean is the inside part of the arm here. Confused me a lot. In the end, I was just like, why don't I just make it the same as what's happening on the other side? You know, as in you have a muscle that kind of breaks up the bicep and the tricep. If I got on the outside, let me just do the same thing on the inside and just make my life easier. So that's what I've done. But yeah, but basically, see this that I've drawn the Brachioradialis, right? So I kind of imagine there's the same thing happening on the other side, on the inside of the arm. Basically, that's what I mean. So for this drawing, if I was to maybe try and draw that, I'd just have a muscle there, perhaps. Okay. In fact, I've seen Cohen's do it as well. So I think I might have taken the idea from him. Okay, so we can't see much. Yeah, I'll just get that there. Let's do the other arm though, because I can see all of it. Okay, so you just see me doing this over and over again. I hope it's clear. Complex versus simple. Just an easy way to make your drawings just look better. In fact, that's like that's a funny thing about it. It's like if you draw everything you see in the reference versus not drawing everything you see in the reference and designing, like drawing less ends up looking better. So like drawing all those bumps, and if you just like simplify it, your drawings just look better. It is magical. Right. Try again. See how I'm kind of showing that plank. Yeah, so it's like, here's a plank of wood in the forearm, and then you got like mass, and then other mass. Okay, that's what I'm thinking, is just doing it in perspective and focusing a lot on this cylinder idea. But yeah, the cylinder's being, we're carving it out. Right, so it starts off as a cylinder, but we carve it as some design in there. Hands are already troublesome, but maybe they don't have to be. Maybe I'm just making it difficult. Let's leave that there. Let me not embarrass myself too much. Okay. Moving on. See, again, no change in shape at the deltoid. Okay, let's move on. Again, you can see, I mean, it's just too small here, but you can see that muscle that starts at the base of the deltoid and then goes to the brachioradialis. Right, and as you can see, behind that you've got the tricep. On the other side you've got the bicep. And then, you got the side of the arm muscles and the ulnar to help you find where things are. And if you're not sure about where the arms attach, remember I did a the torso video, and I did draw the deltoids in there. So if you want to learn where those the deltoid attaches, be sure to watch that video. Okay, so like I said earlier, the triceps, the deltoid is on top of the triceps. I think the best diagram I've seen this is, I mean, as far as the anatomy books that I've looked at, is Stonehouse Anatomy, because what they have in that book is they'll start from just bone and then layer on the muscles, so you can see where things actually go. It is quite helpful if you need a bit more clarity on these muscles. So I don't know if some of you are wondering, why don't I just draw the whole cylinder like you might do in a draw box lesson? Can I even draw a cylinder? Maybe not. I guess the reason I don't draw it like that is design choices. You know, the things I leave out is just as important as the stuff that I leave in. Okay, moving on. If you wanted to perhaps draw the upper arm as a cylinder, you could, but I think you'd be fine just drawing a cylinder, you know, like a rectangle, but pretty much. And then for those of you a bit more comfortable, you design that rectangle like so. But yeah, I think the cylinder, I already emphasized that on the forearm. The upper arm isn't as complicated as the forearm, just because of the way the forearm moves. You can have your palm face up, palm face down, and your upper arm stays in the same place. If you're drawing with me, hopefully it's making a bit more sense. Might take a while. Arms are not easy, but you've got lots of great notes. Weston, Taco, and so on. So in this case, you got the hand in front, right? So there's overlap. So what I think is probably the easiest thing to do is draw the hand first. I mean, once I get to that area. So I can see the forearm, but I'll draw afterwards. So the hand, this might not be the best one to draw if you're avoiding hands for the time being and saving it for another study. But if you're not, here's an idea for you. I'm not very good at drawing hands, but it's okay. It is okay. And then so I got a rough hand in place. I will draw that cylinder behind it. Okay, and then, you know, I'll probably, well, if I was to use this drawing, obviously I'd clean it up, but yeah. That is, you know, one way to think about these ones where the arm's overlapping. You know, draw the thing in front is usually helpful. Okay, let's move on. I'll leave that one in the back and move on. I'll do the left arm, as you can see that. Yes, let's draw this arm on the left. A very foreshortened forearm here. Let's see what I can do. I can't really clearly see what the hand is doing. But again, I'm using overlaps, so again, if we go to that plank from a side view, we've got Brachioradialis, and then we've got the flexor group, or Brachioradialis and extensor group. So I kind of think of, you know, this is kind of two parts. So that's what I've done here. I've done this and then this, as if to, you know, divide these into 1 and 2. Or yeah, I think just any way you can find to create an overlap is gonna just make your drawings look more dimensional. And for me, I just like the look of it, so sometimes I will even cheat it. But yeah, the hand. So yeah, I've got that. Okay, and so the reason, I guess, if you look from a tight angle, the plank of wood, so I got like the forearm kind of going down, and if I was to extend the plank out in space, I might just have that. And so I can see the front of the plank, but then part of it is covered up by, you know, the muscles on top. So I'm using this idea, if that makes sense. So the overlap is right here. Remember the feet video that I made? T-lines. Great, a very great tool. But I'm gonna stop. The drawing isn't too great. Really struggling with this hand. Let's get rid of this. I mean, I've got the forearm in the wrong position, but maybe I can. I'll just leave it. Alright, let's try this one. When I should mention, I am thinking about running classes, for all this stuff. Depending on when you're watching this, I have put a poll on the community tab. So go check that out and vote if you can. Let me know if you're interested. Oh, forgot to do the cylinder. Wasn't even thinking. So you could even do the cylinder at an angle. That's fine. I'm gonna change the hand position. I mean, I can't even see it properly. Probably should have left this on. Okay, good. Let's try these two. Oh, it's gonna be tough. Oh, hands are so difficult. Proportions are definitely off on that one, but I kind of like it. See if I can do this full shortened one. Okay, so this foreshortening stuff, overlap is the name of the game. It might be a while before I do a hand video. But I know how there's so many hand videos on YouTube. And I don't like to draw them. I've done 2 hand videos, I think. Yeah. And I also won't be drawing them realistically, so I don't know how helpful that'll be, but we'll see. Oh, that's weird. I think, let's see, maybe the tricep is a bit too large. Yeah, I'll move on. Let's maybe do 2 or 3 more. See, I haven't done it much, but remember, we were talking about the condyles on either side of the elbow. Yeah, sometimes I will draw it. If it's an opportunity to break the silhouette and it'll make it more interesting, then I'll go for it. So I have done that here. And I like the look of it so far. I think I did it with some of them, but I just forgot to mention it. Yeah, I did it here, but it doesn't break the silhouette. So I would actually change that. Too busy, but let's continue. So I think in these moments, that line that I just drew is helpful. I think it's good just to give an indication of the depth, because if you got like a cylinder facing sideways, and then if you turn that, if we say the center is about there roughly, this distance is a lot shorter than this one, and I'm kind of using that idea, and it helps sell the depth of it. Right, like this is shorter than that, so you'll understand that this is further away in space. Okay, let's do the other arm. I know we can't see much of the top of it, but let's try that, and then we'll wrap it up. So remember what I said earlier? The inside of the arm. You can see it over there. There's like there's nothing really there that I'm aware of that can help me kind of figure out where things are. So I kind of just treat the outside and the inside as if like they were the same thing. In the way the bicep and tricep are divided. And so the brachialis, it goes between the bicep and tricep, and then I imagine, okay, maybe there's a muscle on the inside that does the same thing. I don't know if that's going to be helpful or not, because the arms really need to be simplified. It's just the range of motion and all the muscles just make it difficult. Some weird hands. Okay. Okay, so I will stop there. Yeah, as always, I hope this was helpful, and I hope you realize that the forearm is there's a lot going on, and if you can simplify it, using the stuff that I mentioned, we just understand the range of motion of, you know, this, like the elbow to, you know, the ulnar from elbow to pinky side of the wrist. You know, how the upper arm doesn't really move. It only moves, you know, the ball joint of the arm, right? That's how the upper arm moves. Right, other than that, doesn't do much. And then you come down to the forearm, you can have your palm face up, palm face down, and, you know, the muscles move around, which makes things complicated. But, you know, you've got this diagram to help you with that. And of course this, right? The muscles on the side of the arm, right? These, it doesn't matter where they are. If you can see where, the deltoid is, right? And you can see where the base of it is. You can just follow that, trace that to the brachioradialis, and then trace the brachioradialis to the thumb, right? And now you've got a nice like fence for you to find the other muscles. The ulnar does that for you as well, right? From elbow, pinky side of finger. You've got the flexors on the bottom, extensors on top. So in the beginning, I want you to, well, if we're going to use my way of doing it, I want you to focus on exaggerating the forearm with a cylinder using this sort of shape. And then once you get there, you can start, you know, copying from other artists and, you know, just having fun with the design. When, as I mentioned earlier, I am thinking about running classes for this stuff, so I can, you know, we can talk more about this, and I'll guide you through, you know, figure drawing and things to think about, you know, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so again, you can find this on my Instagram. You can use this as reference as you're studying, and I mean, if you can, you know, do muscle draw-overs and just find these groups of muscles. Or you can do it over your own drawings if you want. But yeah, there's not much else to say besides, yeah, just try not to get too frustrated with this stuff. The forearm is probably the most complicated, the way the muscles actually move. Don't forget about the asymmetry in the forearm, all that stuff, and make sure you look at Will Weston and Taco. Super useful stuff. Very, very useful. I should mention, on the Discord, we're doing monthly challenges now. And this month, last month we did heads, and this month we're doing figures. And, you know, I've turned it into a voting system, so everyone in Discord can vote for what challenge they want it to be for next month, and so on. So if you're interested in doing a challenge with everyone, join the Discord, and yeah, you can see all the details in there. Yeah, alright, well, until next time. Bye-bye.